Your name?
Amy, it's 11:45.
Right. Okay.
Good morning. It's 11:45 and we'll call the meeting to order. Amy, would you call roll, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members present today include Delkey, Cusa, Durand, Hiring, Kovash, Rogala, Schauman, Solin, and White.
Thank you. Dan, would you like to introduce Alex this morning?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we have a new member in the EDA today joining us, CUSA. I'm so used to calling you Alex over the years, but we're moving to CUSA, which is, and so welcome to the team. CUSA lives in downtown Moorhead, is a real, went to Concordia College, has developed some great relationships, has been a great partner to work with, kind of regionally through his connections with Folkways and just a lot of community groups. You'll just find him everywhere. So we're really happy to have you on the team. So yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you. We're excited to have you. So, are there any agenda amendments this morning?
I have none.
None? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go on to minutes. Take a minute to read the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, do we have any citizens addressing the board today? Seeing none, we'll go on to commissioners' reports. Are there any commission? Pat?
I'll give you a report from the MBA here. So, well, since our last meeting, we've had our 4th of July event, very well attended. Just something that we really need to be proud of, that the business community and the whole community comes together and has such a great event that at no charge. We figured there were, right in the general area, there were probably 5,000 to 7,000 people. And just really a good testament for the engagement of the business community. And I think it's great that they give back and donate and put such a great event on with all the time. And special thanks to Ann Blackhurst for letting her use our stadium, because without that, it wouldn't be the same. So we have our annual Bridge Bash event. We have a new co-sponsor, the Fargo Downtown Community Partnership. It's going to be located on the Main Avenue Bridge, and it's going to go from 6 to 10. Invitation to the MSUM, Concordia College, and NDSU students, free to all college students. Right now, we have 29 business vendors that want to be part of that. So, I mean, this is going to be a nice event, and we're going to have 7 food trucks. And also the MBA and the other sponsors will be hosting the Diversity Job Fair twice a year, and the committee plans to hold the Fall Job Fair in September. More information will be posted on the MBA website and Facebook. And then last but not least, our MBA annual meeting will be November 14th this year, and we'll hold that at the courtyard by Marriott. So, and we'll have more details for that. So that should be it.
Awesome, thank you. So are the vendors able to sell products then?
I believe so, yes. Yep. Oh, also one more thing. If you're in the downtown Moorhead Shields, we've gotten together with the Shields organization, and if you're looking for the coolest T-shirt in town, we have our Moorhead 56560 T-shirts that are going to be available at Shields. They're $14.99. So get your Moorhead proud on.
That's a great buy.
Madam Chair, I wanted to just tag on there and share one story. I know a couple of you have heard me say this already, but I think it's worth repeating. So sadly, I missed the 4th of July because I was visiting my son in Maryland, and I happened to be walking down a street in Annapolis, Maryland, and heard someone, as I was walking at a street fair, heard somebody say, Minnesota State University Moorhead as I was walking down the street. And so, of course, stopped and I asked them, and it ended up being a family that is from Maryland, and they were in the area for the very first time. They're visiting all 50 states. In North Dakota, they picked as number 40. The folks at the Visitors and Convention Bureau recommended they go to the 4th of July event, and they had a fantastic time. They just couldn't say enough good things about it, and what a great time they had in Moorhead. And so, I just wanted to get that out there. And again, thank MBA for all the hard work that they put into it, and for hosting the community and even folks from outside the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay, next we'll go on to, is Rebecca Peterson? Welcome. Yeah, with West Central Initiative?
Yeah,
Yes, welcome.
and I know we sent a letter ahead, but I brought some packets,
Okay.
Madam Chair and Commissioners and staff. I know some of your staff, and Commissioner White, you're on our EDD board. I haven't officially met you yet, but I know you were on the call a
Yes.
couple of weeks ago, so I'm fairly new to West Central Initiative. I've only been on staff for a little over a year, so I think you're used to seeing Tom McSparron at these meetings. So Tom's retired. He's living in Arizona now. So as I said to your staff member, Amy Thorpe, I'm a little nervous. This is my first time in front of all of you. But Samantha just joined our team, and she may be doing a presentation in the future as well, so I brought her along today. I just want to walk you through the packet. On the right-hand side, just some statistics about Clay County. In addition to Commissioner White being on our EDD board, our WCI board, we have Yoksim Gunaratne representing Clay County. Just a list of some of the impact that West Central Initiative has had on Clay County since 1986. Then also just some statistics about Clay County and our annual report. But what I really want to do is draw attention to the left-hand side of your packet, because West Central Initiative, the second sheet in after the letter, we've been doing a lot of work on our strategic goals and our strategic framework and our next 3-year plan. And so it's been really interesting to take an organization that does planning and philanthropy and marry the two. And that's what we've been trying to do with this new strategic plan. So you see at the core, our strategic priorities being reimagining regional, investing in local, educating, activating, and celebrating. Then we move into the planning cornerstones, develop MN, community resources, human capital, foundational assets, and economic competitiveness. And then the final gear is connecting us to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that the United Nations have adopted. So we find that this is extremely important because we know what we do regionally affects the world, and what happens globally affects the region. So I think, Commissioner White, you were on the phone conversation
Yes.
when we spent probably a couple of hours
Yeah.
going over this, and we had all of our EDD board and our WCI board, and then, I'm sorry you didn't get to put sticky notes up, but probably mentally you did.
Yes.
We put sticky notes against all of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and there's so much already happening in our region, but it just opens the door to more opportunity to work together. And for instance, no poverty, zero hunger. We know that most of our counties and cities have food shelters that we're working on eliminating hunger for our population in our region. But to me, the most important one is probably 17, and that's partnerships for these goals. So we see our cities, the 82 communities we serve, and our 9 counties as being strong partners, and also the city of Moorhead and your EDA board here. So with that being said, just wanted to highlight a few things that I know we've been doing with you. I know you work with Greg Wagner, and there are a lot of projects. He mentioned the facade project that you're working on, the business retention and expansion projects. Our ECI coordinator here is doing a lot of work with Somali Child Care Project and also the Longest Table. We're working on a trails project with MnDOT. We also have our Live Wide Open campaign, where we feature a lot of newcomers to our region, but people who have left and are coming back. So I suggest you check out that website. There are a couple of Moorhead people focused and featured on this. Rachel Stone, I guess, was Mrs. North Dakota. And then Abdul Ali, and that one's been getting lots of hits. Also, I was told by one of my colleagues, I should mention that our former board member, Sherry Johnson, started a business that we helped with, and it's been very successful. So we feel that we're good partners in economic development, and we know that you're excellent partners, so thank you for your previous support. In the letter, I suggest something so bold as an increase in support. I'm just suggesting this to all of our cities and counties. We haven't asked for an increase. And basically, it's, as I talk to my Live Wide Open companions, they want to be out asking for sponsorship. And I said, well, why don't I just ask at the same time I'm asking for the organization? So that's the suggested increase. And of course, we're very thankful that you haven't decreased your support. So this is just testing the waters. Any questions for me?
I'll mention, I love the Live Wide Open campaign, and it was great. I loved seeing Rachel and Abdullahi on there. And I just wanted to know what, because actually I wasn't aware of it until the last meeting. And so it was nice to become familiar with it. And so what are we doing? What are some of the plans for promoting that some more? Or what do you think we could be doing too?
Well, our staff are very active on social media. So we're always putting stuff up on Facebook and, YouTube. So all you have to do is share, and people will find out about it. I think that's how the first one with Abdul went viral. A lot of people shared it on Facebook. So the more you can do, and as you noticed on the front of your folder, Live Wide Open is right there. So we just need to make people more aware of our website, our Facebook page. And if you want us to come out and do more stories, just give us a shout. Rick would be happy to bring our professional videographer and do a story about new people moving to your community and region.
Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit more about exactly what Live Wide Open is?
Well, it started about 4 years ago as a marketing campaign for worker recruitment. We all know that there's a workforce shortage. And so we decided this was going to be a way for us to encourage people to come back, to raise their families here, to start their businesses here. And so it's a focus on people moving here, getting jobs here, being entrepreneurs, and the whole Live Wide Open as you're driving across the countryside. I think that's how the name was adopted. Because Rick Scherer will always say, well, I was at another Live Wide Open. I was driving to Alexandria, and there I was, living wide open. So I think it does require a little bit of an explanation, but that's the premise.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And just a heads up, we're planning a Live Wide Open Summit a year from September, and we'll be inviting people from around the region. With the focus on being welcoming as communities, as a region. We want you to move here. I think, a lot of times in small towns, we have a reputation for, well, it's sort of a closed community, and we want to open the doors for more people. So September, middle of September, a year from now.
Well, if I could just add, we're in touch with West Central multiple times a month with Greg Wagner, who's just been great to work with. Most recently, we've looked at our storefront rehab program and very open to looking at new ways of doing things. We have a program that's frankly pretty solid. Sometimes you just need to tweak some of the requirements, applications, different things like that. And so the feedback that we're getting from West Central and the West Central Board is very supportive. I just wanted to mention that. This is also where we have the Moorhead Loan Fund that meets. We just approved a loan at the end of last week, one last month, and so we're getting a little more traction on that loan fund as well. So we can really feel you leaning in, and thank you for that.
Well, thank you. It's a great partnership.
I think our partnership with West Central Initiative is wonderful.
Thank you. We feel lucky to be a partner.
So, Pat,
Are we currently utilizing all the funds, or is this something that we would look at in the next year's budget? Or, did we ever get numbers on what the balance was on that account that Moorhead had in there?
I don't have them with me. We do have those, and we're trying to figure out ways to access those more and meet more regularly with the Moorhead Loan Fund. One example is with the storefront rehab program. The Loan Fund Committee is going to be the one that is the first point of review on there after the applications are received by West Central, of course. And so that should create more momentum. I mean, some of this stuff is just talking about it and letting people know it's there and the interest in the partnership. I'm really excited about the opportunities for entrepreneurship in our community. And so it's a momentum building sort of thing.
Yeah, in fact, I should mention one more thing. We just closed the call for applications for the Initiators Fellowship, and we had over 80 applicants for the 3, West Central, the Initiative Foundation, and then Southwest Initiative. So we'll be reviewing those, and there will be 7 out of those 3 areas chosen. So we'll be letting you know more about that, too.
Because I just think it would be, if we're not totally utilizing the fund, we need to look, but if we can find constructive ways to utilize it, increasing it is a good idea, as long as we're finding constructive ways to utilize it.
Yeah,
If we don't have money, we're just putting money in an account that's sitting there.
We want you to use it, too.
Yes.
I think that was really the big push for kind of revamping that storefront rehab or the facade loan program was really just, let's see what the interest is out there, see if we can effectively sustain things as well. But yeah, we want to utilize that fund for the greater of Moorhead.
So Pat, are you suggesting that we wait until we find out? if
No, I
those funds-
just want to, we've had that 250,000 sitting out there for several years and we're finally figuring out a way to utilize it by not having a 15-page form. And we might be able to help more than that and increase the balance, but we just really haven't utilized it. And I think once we figure that out and it's doing good, this is a no-brainer. But we just have to work together and try and figure out ways where we can do that.
Well, let us know how we can help.
The one thing, I'm going to steal a little bit of Derek's thunder.
Absolutely.
So, we've kicked off our downtown plan, and
Yes.
it came off the ground just like a rocket. We have a survey that's out there, and literally hundreds, within the first few days, hundreds of surveys completed. So we're sure hopeful that, sorry to do that to you, Derek.
Hey, no, that's all
But
right.
we'll hear more later. But that West Central will keep an eye on the process,
Yeah.
maybe join some of our community engagement. It's going to be a real big part of this whole
That'd be great.
process. And
We'd love to
participation would be
get more
super.
involved over here, so please, whatever we can do to help.
So I will tell you then, we will take a serious look at this and we'll look at possibly increasing that amount, but we'll be in touch.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
And I guess I'm coming back next week to the city council meeting. But there, I'm not supposed to ask them for money, I'm just supposed to give them it up.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Lisa Bodie. A resolution to approve a 2021 legislative contracts.
Good afternoon. It is afternoon.
It is afternoon.
Included within your packet are contracts with Flaherty and Hood and Frederickson and Byron, who are legislative consultants that the city has been working with for more than a decade, and with one of the firms for even much longer than that.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
I certainly can. I'll move the microphone just a little bit closer. So the contracts are to provide legislative services to the city of Moorhead with these 2 St. Paul-based firms that have a strong relationship with the city of Moorhead, and we have a 3-year contract and 2 1-year options. The extensions will then take us through the year 2024. There is no increase in price from what we've been paying since 2014. So each firm will be getting a sum of $32,500 as part of their annual retainer to the city of Moorhead. And for that price, they provide us eyes and ears in St. Paul when we can't be there every day during the legislative session where things are changing, sometimes hourly. And they have provided great assistance to me as I've been learning the ropes in St. Paul. And I think that combination of advocacy, having the subject matter experts and then the local flavor, is a good combination for Moorhead. And we're excited to have a stable contract to present to you that will get us through the next several years. So we thank Scott Hutchins, who helped with negotiating this stable deal for the next 5 years. And with that, I'll just ask you what questions you might have for me.
Lisa, was the last contract with the two firms also 5-year contracts?
The last, we had an annual contract with 2 one-year extensions, and so we exercised the last one-year extension for 2019. So we were at a point where we needed to do some further negotiation. But rather than, since we have these stable relationships, they're working well for us. They have partnerships. Frederickson and Byron, the principal lobbyist that we work with is Kevin Goodnow, who is originally from Moorhead. And the other firm also is the primary legislative staff to the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. So these connections are very strong and deep, and they have a good understanding of Moorhead and our needs.
Any other questions?
And this would be part of your budget, the EDA budget, and that's why we bring it to you before we bring it to the city
Lisa,
council.
is it common for a group like us to be able to make an appropriation for 5 years? Is that something that we've done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a standard process, yeah.
It's just a question, but we're doing a 5-year appropriation, and is that?
City manager?
Yeah, thank you. Board Member Kovash, we do that frequently, but there's always a 30-day out in every contract. So the city can cancel or the vendor can cancel. We always do that to protect both parties for no cause. So we do try to lock in a price. It's to our benefit, not theirs, for 5 years. That's why we're doing it.
Yep.
And make it easier on the paperwork and the staff time and everything, but we can cancel at any time.
City
Yeah,
manager,
sure.
is that without penalty then, or do you?
That's
pay?
correct. No penalty.
Clarification. Just clarification,
Regala.
Lisa. You had mentioned Scott. Scott's kind of at the end of his connection with the city shortly, or is he done, and are you taking over the majority of that now?
I am taking over the majority of that. I'm not sure if there's anything more to add on that, Chris.
Board Member Regala, Scott's contract is done July 31st. It was done July 31st. We are considering if there is any value to have him on call and help us. He has really done a lot for this city and his relationships and his advocacy for the city at the legislature. A lot of the appropriations we received between his partnership with these firms and the city's involvement, we credit him to significantly. So he does have some knowledge. Lisa has been trained and is a registered lobbyist, and she's only been through one session, and so there's a value possibly to continue a very small small relationship, but we haven't figured that out yet.
And I believe we need a motion now, is that correct?
Move to approve the resolution for the 2021 legislative contracts.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for all that you are doing and continue to do. City Manager Chris Volkers, I think you're up next.
I think I'll come down there.
We like that.
What you have here is, it's a current analysis and projection of the 2019 budget. What is absent here is the 2020 estimate projections, and we are working really hard to pull this budget together. We've come to some obstacles for the overall city budget. So what we are doing is working with the council this afternoon, and part of your budget is tied to a small general fund budget. And so we're trying to figure out, we need to talk to the council basically first on the general fund part to see what can be funded where. We're also trying to merge those budgets because it doesn't make any sense to have a general fund budget and a tax levy budget. It's, as I said, a very small budget. So the point is we're still working on it. So what I want to give you today is a recap with detail that we don't usually, this isn't usually how you see the budget. You see it in categories like lobbying, marketing. This is the detail. The left side is a detail, and I thought it would be time to educate you on that. And I'd like to go through it so you really have a sense of where your budget is at. And then what we would like to do is bring back the proposed budget. Well, we have two options, next meeting or have a special meeting, and here's why. That should be done early September, okay? The approval for the preliminary budget should be done. We really have till the late September, but the city's gonna do it early September, so we should do yours. And I'm worried about the next meeting giving you a proposed budget and expecting you to vote on it at the same time. That's not really fair. So I'd like to get you a draft proposed budget with explanation, have a special meeting if there isn't gonna be a large number of you here at the September meeting, because that is the day after Labor Day.
Right.
And I wasn't sure about the attendance. So I need some guidance. Do you want to have a special meeting, or do you want me just to send it out ahead of time and then plan that you'll all be here the day after Labor Day and we'll do the budget then? But that will really be the deadline. And so if we could go through this, and then maybe you could tell me what you're comfortable with in that regard. Is that okay? All right.
good.
So what you see at the top is the levied taxes for the EDA budget. It is $438,000 this year. I will tell you, next year, we thought it was going to be over 588,000, excuse me. As it turns out, there was some calculation problem, plus the values, our property tax values haven't went up as much as we had hoped. So the max budget will be down to 546 in 2020. Okay, so that's a 8% almost decrease right there. So that's why we're struggling a little bit. The max that you guys can levy just went down 7.67%. So we need to balance everything. We just got that information, okay? Then if you go through the budget, your budget is $438,000. There's some transfers from reserves in here. It didn't start out this way. That's been adjusted. There was a small transfer from reserve. If you recall, we were transferring Amy's position by thirds over the next 3 years into this budget. What that number is the $160,000 we're contributing towards the downtown plan has been added in here. That's why it looks so big, okay? Because you approved that from reserves. Okay, and then what you have below is an accounting of Amy's salary, the intern that we always have salary. We've just hired a clerical person that we're allocating about 15%. Is that right, Amy? To assist Amy because she is overly busy with clerical work, and she is a program administrator and shouldn't be spending her time on all that clerical work. And she's super busy with the workers' comp stuff. So we've hired some assistants, small amount of assistance for her. You go down, those are all salary-driven benefits. And then you go down and you see the operating expenses, very simply printing, right, office supplies, et cetera, postage, telephone, professional service. Again, that is the downtown plan, and I believe that's where our contract is out of with DMI. So next year, you're gonna see the 100,000, is it 100, Derek? I think it's 100,000 we pay DMI to provide the services in lieu of a full-time position, which I'm acting right now, but it's not being charged to the EDA. We go down to marketing, you'll see what we usually spend. That's for all kinds of things, social media, brochure, I mean, it's just all kinds of things are in there. And we can get you some detail if you want on any of these. Lobbying, Lisa just talked to you about the lobbying expense. That's very clear in there. It's been pretty standard. And then what you see, and I did not know West Central was going to make a proposal for an increase today. That caught me off guard. So let me tell you what you're currently been approving, which is you'll see here, the Greater Minnesota Partnership, West Central Initiative at $15,000. Their proposed increase would go up 3.33% to 15.5. Then they want to go to 16.5, which is another 6.5%. So I'm going to come to you with a recommendation on that after looking at the overall budget, okay? That was the first time I heard that information today. Downtown Moorhead, Inc., I don't believe we are allocating, this was a $15,000 donation.
It was
Is
a
that right there?
membership fee for the past years. That was before the contract was entered, and we discussed at a prior EDA that because we have the contract, we wouldn't be looking or seeking additional funds from the EDA in a membership capacity.
Excellent. So that will go down to zero, okay, for 2020. And then we've got Greater Fargo Moorhead EDC. We allocate $25,000 to them every year. That's the one that I held for a couple of years until we worked out our relationship, and now we've got good communication going. In fact, we have the EDC here, and in the audience are participating and supporting, and anyway, so we've really come a long way in that relationship. And then you're going to see West Central Minnesota Small Business. We give a small amount to that. So those are the donations that this group has made in the past, are the memberships. And so we would probably recommend they continue. I'm not sure, again, about that increase for West Central, but they do great work. It's just I don't know where the funds are going to come from for everything that we want to do. So are there any questions about the budget, the details?
Just a
Yeah,
question, since I'm new to the board and there's other new members. So when you come to us, will your proposed budget include both the detail in the expense categories such as marketing, as well as a balance sheet, so we can understand what remains in reserves and so forth?
We can, absolutely. We have not done that before. It's been by category, so this is way more detailed than you've ever gotten, but we absolutely can break out any account, and I can bring that for reference if you'd like, yes.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is if indeed you're projecting an 8% fall in revenue, I mean, it goes
I
to the
agree.
request made by West Central Initiative is, are we looking at decreases instead of increases?
Right.
So,
So you'll have my recommendation, but absolutely, I'll bring that backup documentation in case you want to look at it.
thank you.
Madam Chair. Chris, I have two questions. So first, so just to make sure, just to clarify, so whatever we don't cover through the tax levy will come out of the general fund for the city, right? So whatever our budget is that?
So, not exactly. So sometime, for a lot of the office expenses, yes.
Okay.
For at one-time purchases or donations or partnerships, we've been using the reserves, which is what they're there for. So.
Okay, okay. And then the other thing is just, you know, I wanted you to speak on this a little bit, that I know whatever we decide, it's important to keep in mind the big picture of, you know, the EDAs, whatever EDA levies will also go in with whatever the city does, what the school district does. And so
Absolutely.
thinking about, I know as we're looking at the city budget, that it's going to be a tough year because just with COLA and, you know, healthcare increases, even though we did see a slight increase in our local government aid from the state, that pretty much ate up all of that. And so even just not increasing any spending, it's going to be difficult. Well, we will already, even if we don't increase anything,
In the
we
negative.
already need to make up that gap. And then the school district is expecting to have a referendum, right?
they
And
are.
so all of these things, so I think it's just, you know, trying to find that sweet spot of we're doing great work here in EDA of trying to bring new businesses and you know, make Moorhead this attractive place for people to come to, but also, you know, making sure that we don't have those property taxes go up that drive people away from Moorhead too. So it's going to be that fine balance of, you know, what we can do that will be best for Moorhead's growth.
I think that's exactly right. Good summary.
Okay.
Thank you. What I can also, to that point, bring is we have a visual of a $1 bill. For every dollar bill in property taxes that people pay, what is the split between the county, the school district, the city, and EDA? I will bring that. So, there's also a housing, what is it? The house. Affordable housing, there's also a percentage that they tax levy too. So I can bring that, and that'll help put what Councilmember White set into perspective for you.
So you talked about timing for the city's actions and understanding their budget and relative to ours. So is August premature to meet? And just as a hypothetical, is it better that we meet that first Monday, and if we can't reach resolution or have follow-up questions, we can just hold open to a date certain that meeting?
You know, that, we could do it, excuse me, we could do it in August, but I think your suggestion is an excellent one. If you're going to have good attendance, you might be able to resolve it, especially if I send it out ahead of time and you ask your questions and we talk about it at the meeting. You might want to vote on it. That's generally what the council does. But I don't want to push anybody into that, so I want you to be comfortable.
If we could make certain that we could have it ahead of time,
Absolutely.
that would be a great way for it to work.
Sure, we can try. What is attendance going to be like on that date, though, the Tuesday after Labor Day? No?
I know,
Be here.
I won't be able, I teach on Tuesday, so I've already let Amy know that since we're moving the date to a Tuesday, I don't know if other
Because of the
people have
holiday, I
conflict.
think, yeah.
Yes. I don't know if that's,
Okay, that's two down. What about anybody else?
Well, I think it's important to have council member representatives here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we need to pick a different day or the following Monday instead of the Tuesday after.
Whatever you want to do.
When do you need resolution on our vote on levy?
Well, no later than the middle of September, because the council will have already decided by then, or they will know what they're doing, so we need to tie those two together. So if we're going to do it the next Monday after Labor Day, that would probably be my preference, if you're going to do it that way.
That's Monday, September 9th, as opposed
council
to,
date, but yeah.
That'd be
works.
perfect. But the council will approve it that day, too, I expect.
So so ultimately, we'll move our EDA meeting to that Monday?
I think that's what you're talking about,
1 week.
if you want. Amy?
Then you would be expecting us to work it through and pass it then?
If you could, I guess what we can do, I'll send it out. If we're getting the feeling in the next couple of weeks that that's not going to happen, maybe we can have an early or late August meeting.
That would
you-
be
Can we
good.
be a little
That way-
flexible that way? Okay.
So if we're going to do this, then do we have nothing to vote on now?
That's correct. I would like some direction, though, if anybody has any off the top of their head, but specifically about the West Central thing. It's the first time I've heard about that. And then if there's anything else that jumps out at you that I should really be digging into, I'd like some direction.
Thoughts? Heidi?
Madam Chair. Chris, maybe you explained this and I wasn't listening, but the marketing line. Let's see, so is that saying a 25%, okay, use 25%. Why is that number so much higher than but the 2019 amount when we look at 2018 and 2017?
So,
This year, that was,
Amy, do you know what's in there, or Lisa might know the details of that better?
Yeah, you can come on up, Lisa. She does have the details of the residential marketing, but it was my understanding that Derek was talking about increasing commercial marketing as well.
Yeah, the marketing was decreased when, was it 2016? It was decreased about 30%. And so then it's gone back up since then. And with the changes that we've had in staffing, we haven't fully utilized it. But I think marketing, all the good things that are happening in Moorhead, and you know, trying to attract more residents, trying to build up that residential property tax base, and to develop customers for new businesses, as well as have a focus on the economic development marketing in the community, is why a significant increase was recommended.
Lisa, is that amount is expected to stay at that level, or was that just a one-time thing? It's expected to stay?
If it's generating results, I would expect it to stay at that level, depending on what your ability is. I think if we can, develop the infrastructure to implement it, the more people are talking about Moorhead and, looking at what our community is doing and investing in our community, the better.
I will just say, the one thing I will say regarding West Central Initiative is that I do think they do great work. And I think, going back to Pat's comments, we aren't utilizing it sufficiently. That they, I think we could actually, for the money that we're investing, we could even do more to increase that collaboration and draw on the resources that they provide. And so, I know just from the meetings that I've been attending that they've offered to have people come up and do some different trainings on small business development, and, there's just some other opportunities. And so, I wouldn't be opposed to talking about an increase, although if we were to discuss it, I think if you remember in the material that they sent, they said one alternative would be this could be something that could be phased in. So actually have a more moderate increase, a more modest increase that's spread out over 3 years. I would be more in favor of that, as long as it also went into a discussion about, again, what are we doing for, to make the most out of that partnership. So if we are going to increase the investment, we should really be able to say that we're doing everything we can to get the most out of those resources that we're committing to collaborating with them.
I just want to add to the marketing piece too, because it was one thing when I started looking at the budget as well, as that, where is that money being allocated to? And I think there's an opportunity to relook at the contract that is with Flint. I truly believe that's the one thing that we're really missing with all the changes that we've had, economic development tools, et cetera, the policies that we've created, the promotion of getting that out to people and understanding what we have available is, it just needs to be thought of differently. So I think we've discussed a little bit about talking with Flint and just seeing if we can look at that contract differently, see if they have different ideas about it. And I think that'll just be a big benefit for our future.
Thank you.
I have one question about the marketing. Like what avenues are we using in our marketing area? I mean, I heard social media.
So I do have a list here.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So in addition to what Derek wants to do, which is the right thing for this group to do, more commercial development marketing, right? In addition to what we're doing, which is we do, I believe the publication we've got that goes out twice a year, Insights, is being charged there. We've got a billboard, the billboard off 94 going east, right before you go into Minnesota, the Make Moorhead Home. That billboard's there. We do some photography, which is the advertising of for residential and commercial that you see on our website and so forth. We do some one-time things, like we're doing a video for our new identity, and it'll be great. We're going to roll that out at our identity party on September 10th. And so we have a little bit in there that we can do some of those things. Some, like your name tags. I mean, there's just little things like that go into the marketing stuff. What else?
So, in addition, we do, and we don't have a formal contract with Flint. They provide services to it, but they bill us on a monthly basis for just actual services provided. But we do some targeted social ads, so electronic ads. So if someone is searching for housing in Moorhead or in Fargo, sometimes you notice when you do a search, you have something that shows the links that come to it at the top. So we have those, or we have article, if you click on a certain article in the newspaper about housing or something, you might see something on residential life in Moorhead and things too. So we do some targeted media planning. We do some print marketing too, but even some of the publications that we've used are no longer in business. So, we're doing more and more electronic because that's how people are accessing that information. And then just one, the City Insights is not charged to the EDA
City
budget.
is not,
That's
okay.
charged to the general fund.
That's not this printing on here? Okay, good. And in regards to Flint, we are also going to do some price comparisons, because it's good to always double-check what we're being charged and to see what other vendors are out there. And we've been using them a long time, and it's good to give all our local businesses an opportunity. So we absolutely are going to do that within this next few months, so.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Bye. And then, with regard to the West Central, honestly, right now with the amount that's in that fund, if we waited on this with we have a good chunk of this facade load program, and there's still a pretty good chunk, and we haven't had a lot. I just think that would be something that we could definitely maybe put on the back burner. Amy?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that the amount that you're basically giving to West Central is for their programming and doesn't have anything to do with the
With the loan fund itself?
with the loan fund
Yep.
itself. Yeah, you're not actually giving that money to the loan fund, you're giving it
Okay.
to administration of West Central.
Good clarifying statement.
You know, the one thing that she did, she offered to come and do a Live Wide Open program here, and, you know, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
it would.
That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
we'll talk to him about that programming.
Rogala?
Also, if, with all the programs they have, I'd like to see more of a summary of the activities or the programs that are being utilized in Moorhead.
For
itself.
West Central, or?
From West
Oh.
Central here. 'Cause she mentioned of, you know, a couple, three of them here, but they have a lot of different programs, and either we are not utilizing them or they're not a fit for our city. But I'm sure there's 4 or 5 that are really their main focus in Moorhead.
And we should make a point of utilizing whatever we can and whatever help and marketing and programming.
Very
yeah.
true. Okay. Thanks.
Just a couple of questions. Derek, what is the role relative to budget? I mean, I know you've been taking a more staff member capacity, so as the city manager develops, you know, a budget for us to review, is there any input or collaboration? And the reason I say that, and just to maybe give you my thought, is as we form identity as a board relative to this downtown plan, I think the question is how does our budget reflect our priorities, and where is there role differentiation between city council budget and EDA budget? So again, I'm the new kid on the block relatively, so maybe that takes time, but I think we should maybe start thinking about how we move towards that place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from my perspective, so, you know, I'm staffed still by Downtown Moorhead, Inc. I've worked closely through the budget process. Now, I just had a kid last week, Monday, so I missed the budget meeting.
Congratulations.
But certainly, as I've looked through the budget, I've worked with Amy, worked with Chris and Dan. I've seen some areas where I think, based on the conversations that I've had with businesses and what we've heard from feedback from different events we've been at, et cetera, I provided input. Now, I think Chris and Dan are kind of the ones that form the budget itself, but I try to give feedback when I can and how we're moving forward.
And also, Amy, Dan, and I sat down because Derek was off last week, and we went through every single line item and talked about it and said, what do we need? Because you're right, they are the experts. These guys are the ones working it every day. And so I'm trying to, from the overall perspective, balance the whole budget, right, the bigger picture, but the numbers and the thoughts, and frankly, in the discussion about Flint, let's see if we can price compare to make sure that it's competitive. That came from staff, you know, so those are the questions, and Derek's saying we need more marketing monies, right? They don't have.
And let's clarify, that may not cost more money, it just may be different tools that we
Totally.
can use.
That's
Yep.
true. So that's how it kind of works.
And is there a sense from board members that have been here a while that there is too many gray lines that get crossed between city council and EDA? Does that need to be a more clear differentiation as it comes to economic development? Maybe I'm talking about a white elephant I shouldn't, I don't know.
I'm pretty new too, so.
I'm not new, but I can't, off the top of my head, I can't really think of times where there is a lot of great confusion or ambiguity. I think it helps when Chris presents information that is really detailed like this, and we can see if there's overlap. But staff really does do a good job of looking at things line by line and keeping things in the right categories in the right place. I guess I don't have anything else to say. Chris, in your tenure, have you noticed any?
You know, I think, Councilmember Duran, I think you're right. I think in the past, the categories were less you didn't know what was going on. You didn't know what you were authorizing money for, and you didn't have the details. So hence why you're getting detail. And truthfully, it's not that big of a budget overall for me in my world. And then I switch my hats when we sit down with and talk about the budget with Amy and Dan and Derek. As acting economic development director, what do I think you guys want? And then that's why I ask you, what do you want? So I think we have kind of a good system. I don't know if anybody would disagree. If they do, please speak up. I don't know.
I think the one thing is, Derek is always available. And if you wanted to add something to a meeting or think there needs to be a different budget item on the line, there's always that opportunity. And then our retreats are a big part of that. Where we can sit down and we can have a conversation with ourselves about, where we want to go. And you can be heard at them. And it's really important that everybody attend in them, because that's a big part of kind of where we figure out what direction we're going to go.
Regala?
This is my second time on the EDA, and the biggest difference I see is the group now is much more engaged and willing to ask questions and have higher expectations. It seemed like 20 years ago it was like a rubber stamp. Staff brought it in, stamped it, moved to council. So I think that's something that has to continue and even be more involved by this group here as far as involved in economic development here, what I see the biggest difference.
Eric?
Yeah, and I will say, with Board Member Schauman's point too, I think there is as we plan ahead of the future, especially with the downtown plan, because there will be recommendations coming out of that I would suspect would impact the EDA. That could be funding, it could be other different things. So I think having that open mind of what are some priorities and what do we want to focus on as a authority here to really make sure that we achieve the goals that we set as an authority as well and as a city.
I think before we adjourn today, too, I think we should try to schedule a retreat. Or get it on our agenda somehow, yeah. Okay, Chris, is there anything more?
Oh, I think I have a general idea, and we'll set the September 9th meeting for the budget. We'll get it out to you at least 2 weeks prior so you can look at it, okay?
That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a couple of sheets here on new member orientation
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
information.
So this is, we put it as kind of a new member onboarding information, but really how Amy and myself would like to view this is really is on a yearly basis. We try to get the most current information out to our members. It started out as just like a sticky note and just kind of writing down some different ideas. It kind of turned in, and with the thanks of Amy, she really did a good job of summarizing what we were trying to do. So I just want to step through this, but then this isn't final. I want input, or as new members or existing members of information that would be helpful to see or to understand prior to coming on. And we haven't even had a chance to sit down with Alex yet to go through everything, but we're going to kind of test some things out on him at a later time. But what you would see is just trying to keep things very simple and effective, and then if you requested more information, we could expand it to a much larger and detailed format. So we had a meeting, and just to recap, we had a meeting probably about, I would say about 5 months ago. We were in the back room and we went through an economic development binder. Some of you may remember it was about 3 inches thick of every economic development tool, policy, bylaws of the EDA, et cetera. And it's pretty mind-numbing to just digest in that small setting. So what we tried to do was define kind of the mission and role of the EDA, and that's what you see on this front and back sheet in your packet. So you have the defined mission and role of the EDA. We'd have the City of Moorhead's kind of mission and role as well as the inclusion of the 2018 strategic plan economic initiatives. So there's those 4 different goals there. Then we just talk about just economic development as a whole. Then you kind of get into just economic development activities and examples. So just some of the different things that are happening. And then we move into specifically the EDA's role in those economic development activities. So, you know, again, Renaissance zone applications, reviewing and making a recommendation to council, the TIF, revenue bonds that we had earlier a couple months back, policy development, advocates for business development, promotion of local economic development programs, you know, ambassadors at local events, legislative support, et cetera. Again, taking that a step further of what different subcommittees there are of the EDA, to the Loan Fund, MCARA, Executive Committee, and then just some of the key strategic partnerships that the EDA has as well. So it's just kind of a very quick summary in that case. We'd also want to make sure that you have the most active and current membership list, so you know who your counterparts are, the terms, email addresses, phone numbers, et cetera, as well as just a schedule of events. So imagine, again, you get this at the beginning of the year. Here's your calendar, so you know when the meetings are, so you can get those on your schedules. Also, just some guidelines of just simple Robert's Rules of Order, so understanding just the principles of how the board meeting should run. And really, lastly, we don't have them in here, but you'll see just a kind of a page note or cover sheet for a one-page summary. And this is, imagine that big 3-inch binder and summarizing Renaissance Zone, the storefront rehab, all those different tools into a simple one-page digestible kind of format. We can use that as an economic tool when we're going out and talking to developers or when we're at different events that we run. We'd also have an index that's hopefully a front and back sheet that would list all of those programs in a very generalized fashion that we could use at different events. So we're trying to basically just take all of the materials that we have into a very simple and effective tool that the EDA can understand, that the public can understand, our businesses, our development community can understand. And then obviously if there's a request, we can get the more detail out to folks. So it's just, again, in a draft format right now. It was a lot of work. I thank Amy and Matt that have done a really good job of taking all those programs, and we're talking local programs as well as some of the state programs, to format into that one-page sheet. But I think it'll be a very, very nice tool for us moving forward. So with that, I'd really like to open it up if there's other things that, as you know, existing members or new members, of what you would find helpful. You know, we've talked a lot about budget. Maybe could be an opportunity to include the current budget for on the year, as well as so we understand what our spending is and how it looks. That might be another opportunity. But if there's any other ideas or suggestions, we'd be open to hearing from you. Or if you think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea.
I'll just add, too, I think, Derek, this is fantastic, and it really fits with a lot of the conversations that we've been having about level of engagement. And to Commissioner Regala's point, you said, you know, you've seen the level of engagement increase, and that's so important, because as a council member, I can say this is one of the most important things that we do is to try to, find ways for citizens to be able to have a voice, and so that we can really know what the needs and the interests are of the people in our community. And so we rely on that. But we know that sometimes when people join a commission, they don't always know what the expectations are. And so that was the only thing that I would maybe add, is a little summary of what the expectations are, how would you prepare for the meeting, what's, just a few little things. And then I just wanted to ask the city manager, I think what Amy and Derek have done are great, and we've talked about the need for things like this with other boards and commissions, and I think we as a city are just coming up with a template of making sure that everybody who gets on, anyone who gets on any board or commission has this material, so that they are ready to hit the ground running and feel really well prepared for, providing good service. So thanks.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to add too is, when we had our retreat, it's about a year ago now, but we did talk about some of the goals and objectives. So we may have some strategic goals that we lay out for that year too. So we could always add a little sheet that talks about what we're striving for that year. We did a lot of change, obviously, this last year, but there could be some specific goals that could help with that expectation format as well.
Another part of that too is, I mean, is there a situation where they're expected to attend so many meetings?
I'll let
There
Madam City
is,
Manager.
yeah, Madam Chair, there is. The rules say if they miss 3 consecutive meetings, they will be considered not a member, or something to that effect, or they're to be reported to the mayor, who then can take that action, or it's 3 consecutive meetings, so, or any, we had one situation where somebody missed 6 out of a year, but they weren't consecutive. That's another example of, there are people who want to serve and will attend, so the thought is,
Well, that definitely, that should be included.
that's true, we do have that rule, Derek, we could get that for you.
Absolutely.
Good point.
And if there's anything else that, you know, would be similar? Any other thoughts?
Clarification here. Is there a public meeting rule if the certain number of this group meets as well as, like, I know it's council and that sort of thing, so we have that same,
You're talking about like in a public setting, if like a number of you gathered, like a council. I'll maybe defer to John Shockley on this one too.
Yeah, so great question. Under the Minnesota Open Meetings Law, if you have more than a quorum of this board present and you're talking about business that is related to the board, then it becomes a meeting. However, if it's just purely for social matter, like if you went to a party or a football game and you just happenstance met and you started talking about football, that's not a meeting. It has to be involving public business.
Well, and I assume, you know, if you have more thoughts that you can bring it next month?
Yeah, or please.
contact
yeah,
Derek?
Reach out to us directly. We want to know, so after you review it, just keep us posted. We'll be happy to tailor it to whatever your needs are.
But all that information we should have access to and see, you know, so.
Oh, just very briefly, just related to that, so saying the open meeting law, but also reminding people about when our communication, you can't reply. If just reminding them you can't reply all, because that would actually violate.
Yes, good
Even
point.
little things like that to let them know at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Amy, good work. Thank you. Okay.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, ready.
I don't have much, but I'll just, obviously I don't have a physical report just with everything that happened this last couple weeks, but I wanted to touch on a couple different events that happened over this last month that I think were really, really positive for Moorhead as a whole. Greater Fargo Moorhead EDC held their unannual meeting on August 23rd, which ended up almost being like an exhibit hall setup. Myself, Dan Molly, and our downtown plan consultant, Peggy Harder, we had a booth at the event where we kicked off the downtown master plan kind of surveys. Amy and Carrie Rogers and others did a great job of helping set up our booth. It looked awesome. We had a ton of traction. I will probably gloat and say that we probably had the most amount of people stop at the Moorhead compared to the other cities and even some of the other booths. So people were really engaged on what we were doing and wanted to learn more about Moorhead. So it was exciting. I think it was a really great event for Moorhead as a whole. So
And one of the reasons might have been it was so hot in there, and we had the water and the food, and then people would leave their drink tickets, so you could find what you wanted in Moorhead.
But it was fantastic, so thank you to the EDC for giving us the opportunity. I think that really gave us traction, even kicking off our downtown plan. It was fantastic. I also had an opportunity to kind of co-host Opportunity Zone event in conjunction with the TEDx kind of mini events that were going on the next day, which was August 24th. So myself and Lisa with the Greater Fargo Moorhead EDC co-hosted the event. About 75 to 100 people showed up. People from our development community, real estate community, banking community, had a lot of really great feedback from those individuals about what Moorhead was doing. I was on the panel discussion as well with some of our federal partners as well as some of our regional partners. So Also made some contacts as I learned from the event that the U.S. government is starting to put federal dollars into these opportunity zones. They had a contact and a rep from North Dakota, South Dakota there. For example, Rapid City, South Dakota is building a business incubator that is in partnership with the city, the local college, and then about $3 million of federal money is going into that project through the Opportunity Zone event, or through the Opportunity Zone grant is what they're calling it. So I already have a call out and an email out to our rep here in Minnesota, hoping to set up a meeting with city manager and assistant city manager, and we'll try to figure out if there's tools and ways that we can utilize those funds from a public standpoint. It's available for governments and for nonprofits, 501c3s. So we're going to look to see what's available and see if we can start tapping into some available money. Last thing we talked about a little bit was just the downtown plan. A couple big things that are kind of moving forward is we're developing right now our focus groups. So we have a bunch of different focus groups, so kind of getting individuals lined up for that. We're looking at a couple different pop-up events, as we talked about in the past. So the first one will be at the Dairy Queen. We're looking at a couple different days, either August 26th, 27th, or 28th. We're looking at some of the community calendars, as well as working with the local Dairy Queen to figure out what day would work best. So we'll do a good job of promoting that when that's scheduled. We're also going to tap into the Bridge Bash as well. That is be September 5th. So based on the EDA's membership level, we're able to have a booth at the event at no charge. So we're going to be able to use that just like we did at the Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC's event, as promoting economic development, promoting the downtown plan. It's a really good, effective way to kind of get to as many people as possible. Last thing I wanted to touch on too was we're planning a large community kind of public open house or workshop. That'll be on September 12th. There'll be more details as we define them, but we're working at the time and some of the other things, but we'll have 2 days where our consultant group is bringing in their group from Boston and the cities. We'll have focus groups, we'll have walking tours, we'll have the large-scale public event, we'll have really a great kind of setup of activity and community engagement over the 12th and the 13th of September. So just stay tuned. I'll keep you posted as we get it. We're going to try to promote it as quickly as we can get the information and everything defined. But as Dan mentioned, we're setting a precedent for engagement. We have over 500 responses, survey responses, and we're talking about written kind of comments in that too. The website hits is well over 600 already, and we're talking only about 2 weeks, if not less than that. So you can just sense that, as we've talked about in the past as well, that the community is longing for this. They're eager for the changes. They want to be engaged in it. It's an exciting time, so we're really looking forward to having a kickoff event and these pop-up events to get more information out to folks.
It sounds awesome. So, next on our agenda?
Yeah, we got just some information updates. So, Dan, do you want to talk about the wish book, or Chris, do you want to?
You, at each of your stations, you have the sample of the new wish book, which we printed 150, and actually, we're almost out, so we're going to revise it. We have a new identity, citywide identity. I've referenced that a couple times, with new colors that we're going to implement into the next printing. But one thing that is not on there is the council has set their 5 top capital priorities. 4 of them are in there. The Parks and Trail enhancement is not in there. That opportunity will be added to the next book. You'll see these are the big projects. We have had several contacts by banks and large businesses in the area looking to contribute, so that's a good thing. We have set up a fund at the FM Area Foundation to take donations, or people can donate direct to the city. That information is on the very last page. There are some some smaller opportunities towards the end that we don't have pictures on, like benches and so forth. So anyway, it was a work of labor. We spent a lot of time on this thing, and we're really happy to be distributing it and showing the community where we could have some partnerships and look for opportunities for partnerships in some of the needs with the community. So not everything is on the tax base in Moorhead, so.
It looks wonderful.
Thanks.
So we're looking at adding to this now?
Yeah, there'll be a couple added things. In addition, every time, if something gets funded, we have this huge red stamp that we're going to stamp on all the books that say funded to show our progress, right? So we're using it, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's a good thing, and we're excited about it. So we also do have a new board. It is the foundation board to help manage some of this stuff, and we are still looking for two. I'm going to go ask anybody. We're looking for 2 more community members to be part of that board appointed by the mayor, if anybody's interested in that. We go out and we seek donations, and we talk to service groups about things that we want and need, and we also manage the donations. So anyway, that's what that's all about.
Chris, do you want to talk about the identity initiative as well?
I do. I keep mentioning this. I probably should put this at the beginning of the agenda. So September 10th, we are planning on doing a rollout of the new identity for Moorhead. We've been through an over 1-year strategic planning process. We have a really good citywide strategic plan that we are actually working. It's not one of those you put on the shelf. Everything we do and every decision and the budget actually will be completely tied to what the council and the department heads have determined is our strategic priorities for the city. And one of those priorities, actually the core one, the most important one, the top priority was to create an identity for Moorhead that we don't feel like we have. And that does include a new logo. We're working on that. That hasn't been finalized. We're seeking input into the 2 samples at this point that the group came up with. We did not contract with a separate vendor for the logo. It was part of the identity initiative. That's important to note. And through that process, we came up with a brand narrative. And the brand narrative is a couple sentences that we're going to roll out with a new video about Moorhead, and some, people in the community are on that video. They're talking about Moorhead. What does Moorhead mean to them? The council and the executive leadership team spent a lot of time with our consultants on identifying or coming up with a brand for Moorhead. In summary, it talks about where the strong belong. In Moorhead, that's what the community, we believe, we did focus groups, we did listening sessions, that's the information we got. It's more longer than that, but it's about where the strong belong here in Moorhead. The people, the citizens of Moorhead are strong, they're determined, and they're committed. And so our brand identity will be rolled out with those kind of focuses. And we're going to have a party at Trollwood or at Blue Stem, September 10th, in conjunction with Kid Fest, which is that day. And so it will be the evening of. We're going to roll out the new video. We're going to roll out the new colors. We're going to just have a big party, so and celebrate it when the entire community is invited. We have little prizes for people too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, you're right. Moorhead people are committed to Moorhead. Okay, storefront?
Yeah, so Dan and I can kind of tag team this a little bit, and I know we're kind of running a little long here, but in short, we're having a ton of inquiries. So the one detail, though, that when the forum reported the article on the storefront rehab program, it wasn't active yet. We were still waiting for approval from West Central Initiative, from their board, et cetera. So we've had it's actually given us an opportunity to kind of really look at the program, making sure that we're asking the right questions to West Central too. So we have a very good plan. We've been coordinating with West Central. They've been fantastic, like we've mentioned before, in really suiting our needs for this program. One thing that really came out of it was setting just a minimum threshold for the projects. That's based on West Central's admin process as well, from a process of approving and going through the loan work. So we'd have a minimum investment of $5,000 on the private end, which would be a match then of $5,000 from the city's end, and that would go up to $25,000 On the private end, again, a total project of $50,000, or they could go further if they wanted. But we'd have a minimum of $5,000 as an investment. Dan, I don't know if I want to get into a little bit of just a kind of a establishment of a pilot project and.
Yeah. I mean, being part of a storefront rehab program that works can be a lot of fun. And so what we were thinking, though, we're running out of time at the end of the season. What happens, we get into November, December, and we're not going to see any storefronts until the spring. So thinking of rolling out where the program design is now, putting it, since we had gotten all of these inquiries, over 10 of them, shows a lot of excitement. There may be some projects that are ready to go, putting kind of maybe a pilot sunset on there. So making August 30th maybe a due date where at least there's a letter of interest or a submitted, an application that is submitted that we could get in and review over the months of September. So hopefully we can see that storefront project happen before the winter sets in. So looking for your support in going right now.
And you made that application process much easier.
Yes. Yeah, it's generated interest, and as Dan mentioned, I think we probably have well over 15 people that have inquired, or individuals that have inquired.
Awesome.
Even if we got half of those businesses to do it, and you think of the transformation that could do, it's pretty fantastic. So we just had to make sure we had the admin done on our end, and obviously get the approval from West Central, but we're excited to launch it. We have Amy and I have a running list of all the individuals that have reached out to us. They've all gotten the same responses, that there's more to come. And we'll have one big email blast, so nobody's put at a disadvantage. We'll send this all out so they all have the right information at the right time.
Sounds great. Any questions? So downtown master plan survey cards?
Yeah, the only thing is that we have passed out these, we got more, we can share them. However, the only thing I was gonna say too is on the back, you can scan with your phone, you can scan that little code, that takes you directly to the survey link. You can fill out the survey from there. So they're pretty straightforward, pretty easy. We got a ton of them, we're just blasting them
So
everywhere.
we could each take a few?
Yeah, absolutely, yep, absolutely.
I'd suggest too, if you're doing your night-to-night, bring them along, talk to people in your neighborhood and encourage them to participate.
Yeah, it's not just, downtown wise, this is the whole community that we're trying to engage to what they want to see, so.
And
yeah.
part of this engagement means bringing back what we hear to you when we hear it, too. So there's going to be a conversation that
Yes.
happens probably every month here along this.
How about our building and permit?
That's just a link that we put out there, so you're able to look at that too. So, yep, there's a report available if you want to check that out.
Just a reminder, if you want to get that permit, just contact Amy, and they'll make sure that they send it out if there's anybody here that's not getting it. So,
So could we throw out a few dates and then like schedule a retreat? Just put together a handful of dates and then maybe you could send out a doodle poll?
You want us to do?
Can we look at some dates and then we'll send out a poll?
You're asking for people to throw out ideas now, or you want me to
No.
just?
We'll do some,
Okay.
but so like, does a Saturday morning work better? Does a weekday work better? Afternoon, early evening?
Lunch?
Are we doing half-day, full-day?
they're usually about 3 to 4 hours.
3 to
is
4
what they've
hours.
been.
Can tell you for me, any Tuesday or Thursday, or I teach straight through, so I couldn't do any Tuesday or Thursday. And then,
Into the evening?
and it would have to be after 6:30, so.
On the other days?
And Monday, if as long as it's not a council, daytimes on Mondays and Wednesdays are usually good for me. You might start this as our, we know that Mondays tend to work because we've got council, or we've got the commission, so maybe use that as a starting point.
And I may suggest too, if, I'm just gonna throw it out there, but maybe we find a meeting date in the coming months, maybe a couple months out, and maybe we take the morning before the EDA board meeting too. Or spend some time afterwards as well. That might be an easy way to kind of keep everything confined, if that's a desire.
I think staff can put together some potential dates and then we'll send out a doodle. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
I'll help you.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Violet.
just leave some of these up here if you want to
Yes.
take as many as you want.